Hey everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera show. I'm so excited to begin season 14 of this show that seems like only yesterday we started. I did the very first show at WJBF in Augusta, Georgia with one of my favorite people, Ann Boardman. And now just look where we are. And it's because of all of you, all of our faithful viewers and those of you that are brand new. We hope you'll tune in every single week. And in keeping with tradition, I'm going to do 3 recipes today out of my cookbooks. And I know what you're thinking, Vera, I thought you only had 2 cookbooks. Well, remember I teased during last season about the 3rd book that comes out in the spring of 2026. So we're actually going to start with the recipe from that book. That's the children's cookbook, and it's chicken cordon bleu. And what a great way to introduce a child to doing something fancy in the kitchen that they can read the instructions and do a great job. Then we're gonna do a roasted vegetable lasagna. This is out of book 2, Occasions. This was a favorite in our mail order division. It's a favorite during the golf tournament here in Augusta with many of our patrons. And then finally, a hummingbird layer cake. It's the only cake we have that's 4 layers, and it's named after the smallest bird. All right, so the other tradition of our first show is that I am celebrating my mother's birthday this weekend, and we always put the books on sale. We do this once a year, so stay tuned to learn more about how you can get a great discount on the cookbooks. We're also going to be going over 3 tips that my mom gave me years ago that I still remember. Polishing silver, setting a proper table, and cutting the perfect slice of cake. All right, so let's get started with the chicken cordon bleu. All right, so I'm giving you a bird's eye view of the children's cookbook today. I'm so excited. It comes out in the spring of 2026. And even though it's a children's cookbook, the adults are going to love to cook from it too, because this particular dish sounds so fancy, chicken cordon bleu. But it's not so fancy that a child can't make it. And if you're not polished in the kitchen, this might be one you want to try for company as well. All right, so we had a little bit we had to do in advance. We started with boneless, skinless chicken breast. You want to put them between 2 pieces of wax paper or parchment paper, and you want to just use a mallet or, even something. I've used a hammer before I had a mallet, and just pound it down. You're looking for about 1/4 of an inch thick on that. And then nature's seasoning is what I use to season my chicken breast. So you want to do the front and the back of the breast. The next thing is the ham and the Swiss cheese that goes in the center. So you do the ham first, and then you top it with 2 slices of Swiss cheese, and then you're just going to roll it up like a jelly roll. So take your time, do it slowly, and kind of tuck it in as you go, and put it seam side down on your sheet pan. And again, I've got some more parchment paper here. So then your next steps are wet and dry. So this is Dijon mustard and Hellmann's mayonnaise. So when you're baking or cooking with mayonnaise, Hellmann's is such a great product because it does not produce a lot of oil during the baking process. So I really like to use that. All right, so we're going to take one of these breasts. I'll start down here, and we're going to put it into that mixture. I'm going to go ahead and put my salt and pepper in my breadcrumbs, and I just use a fork to mix that up. Just make sure you've got it evenly incorporated. All right, so we're going to just very gradually roll this around, get it coated really well. And some people do this with milk and egg, but one of the reasons that we love this recipe is because this also is almost like it's brining the chicken as it sits. All right, so let's move over here, and again, just take your time. So this is one of the things that we think is important in the children's cookbook, is we're giving them very good instruction on how to do this. All right, so I'm going to get started on the sauce, and we can come back to that in just a few minutes. So I've got butter melting on top of the stove. I'm going to turn that up just a little bit now, and we're going to actually make a roux. So this is flour. I'm going to add it to the butter. Turn that down just a little bit. And my wire whisk. you're just going to incorporate that flour for about a minute. All right, that looks just about right. If you like that brown butter flavor, you could do it a little bit longer, let it get brown. Now this is the part that I suggest that you go slowly, because if you work slow with the liquid, then it's going to thicken slowly and it doesn't take quite as long to finish. So just have a nice little stream going. And this is where you get to find out why you're right-handed or left-handed. Because I'm using my right hand to whisk, but using my left hand to pour. Okay, so I'm just going to let that go until it's a little bit thick. And then we've got some good ingredients to add to that as well. All right, so now I'm going to add in Dijon mustard. So this is the cream sauce that goes on these chicken breasts after they're cooked. We've got salt, pepper, and nature's seasoning for your seasoning. And then we also have grated Parmesan. And this is part of the reason this dish is so delicious, is that sauce is so good. So this is going to cook down for about 3 minutes. All right, so that looks just about right. It'll be delicious. And as I said, I'm going to finish rolling these during the break. After the break, we're going to come right into roasted vegetable lasagna, which is one of my all-time favorites. But before we go, remember I said I was going to give you 3 tips today that my mother taught me. And the first one is polishing silver. All right, so you start with your silver and you think it looks really, really good, but you pull out the right silver cream and you get that sponge damp, and then you start going over that silver and all of a sudden that sponge is black. So if there are crevices or if there's like a special border on it, just take an old toothbrush and use that to kind of clean in the insides. Once you've got it completely scrubbed down with that silver polish, then you want to rinse it and dry it really, really well. So I also suggest from time to time using your flatware, polish that too, get it really good and dry, and it's gonna shine like nobody's business. Welcome back, everybody, and if you're just joining me, we are celebrating the beginning of season 14, and I'm making recipes out of my 3 cookbooks. So we started with chicken Cordon Bleu, which is going to be in the book that comes out in the spring of 2026. Now I'm on to roasted vegetable lasagna, and this is just the perfect dish if you're having people over. You could cook a big old steak, you could have this as the side. It's very popular with our guests during the golf tournament here in Augusta, but I had a little bit I had to do in advance. So just look at all these gorgeous vegetables, and whole before they're ever even cut. They were just fantastic. But you know, a lot of times there's like an outside covering of wax or something like that. So my friends at Veggie Wash have completely solved that problem. You spray it on, you let it sit for just a minute, then you rinse it off. And honestly, when you rinse it off, you can almost hear the vegetables squeak because that wax coating is gone. Then you dry it really well, then I chopped it all up. So when you're looking for Veggie Wash, believe it or not, it could probably be where the cleaning supplies are in your grocery store. Otherwise, it's going to be in the produce department, or you can buy it on Amazon. All right, so I went ahead and did the lasagna noodles in advance. I put a little bit of oil in the water so I could have them laid out and they would easily lift up. I've put a little bit of the marinara sauce in my prepared pan just to have a nice layer at the bottom. So the first ingredient I'm going to add is my ricotta cheese, and I'm just going to do little dabs of it. We're doing this in 3 layers. And then I've got my spatula here. I can just spread that around. And again, this is just a great, if you're invited somewhere where you need to bring a dish, I promise you nobody else is going to bring this. So you would be the hit of the night if you brought this. Okay, the next ingredient is our roasted vegetables. I prepared those in advance. I tossed them in oil, seasoned them, and roasted them in the oven. Put a nice layer of those. And aren't they beautiful? So this is everything from red peppers to yellow peppers to squash to eggplant, zucchini. It's just beautiful. All right, now we're doing a layer of mozzarella cheese and also parm. And we'll just keep layering that during the break and get it ready. So when we come back, we're going to get started on the Hummingbird layer cake, which is the biggest cake that we do in any of our cookbooks. But before we go to break, I want to give you one more tip from my mom. She taught me how to set the perfect table. I'm going to teach you too. Setting the perfect table starts with making sure the dinner plate is centered where your chair is. And then you want it about an inch away from the edge of the table. Then your silverware goes in the order of use. If you have a spoon, it's because you're using it for a beverage or possibly a soup. Then the next utensil is your knife. The blade faces the plate. Then on the left side of the plate, if there's a salad, the salad fork goes furthest away from the plate than the dinner fork. If there's a dessert being served and it uses a fork, you put the handle on the side where the forks are placed. Your beverage glass always goes at the tip of your knife. Your napkin does not go under the silverware, it goes to the side or on the plate, and you've got the perfect place setting. Welcome back, everybody, and it's really smelling great in here. The veggie lasagna, oh, it's going to be your new favorite. All right, so we're on to the Hummingbird cake, and probably one of my favorite pictures that Peter Frank Edwards has done for our cookbooks is this picture of the Hummingbird cake that we actually ended up with the hummingbird in the picture. I mean, honestly, and it's the largest cake we do, and it's named for the smallest bird. So I don't know what's up with that, but you're going to love it. All right, so in advance, we took the oil, sugar, and bananas, and you want those bananas to be good and ripe, so you've got that great banana flavor. So those have been beaten for about 3 minutes. So I'm going to turn the mixer back on, and I'm going to add my eggs. And for those of you that are new to the VeryVera show, I have all kinds of little tricks that I'll teach you. And this is one of them, to go ahead and crack all of your eggs, put them in a measuring cup, and then you can pour one egg yolk at a time. And you don't have to worry about the eggshell going into the bowl. So this is one of the things that we explain in the children's cookbook about ways to get all of your ingredients ready, ways to make it easier when you're in the process instead of having to stop and do things. So this is one of my little tips. All right, so we got 5 eggs, and now they're being incorporated, and we'll add in our vanilla extract. All right, so the other thing I did in advance was I added in my baking soda, my salt, and my cinnamon to my cake flour. So that's ready to go. This is another tip. So one of the reasons that I like to use a measuring cup when I'm adding my flour in is it just, as you can see, doesn't start going all over the kitchen. I've got my mixer on low, and it just gives you that opportunity to take it slow, let it incorporate as you go. And honestly, that cinnamon smell is wonderful. So this will take just a minute to get all of this incorporated. All right, we've got that last little bit that's going to go in the bowl. And then I'm going to scrape the sides. And as I said, this is the largest cake we do. All of our other layer cakes are 3 layers. So this one is 4. I've prepared my 9-inch cake pans with parchment paper and flour and oil spray. So they are ready to go. All right, so this last step for my pecans, and these are Pearson Farm pecans, who's one of our partners for the show. These are their pecans, Elliott halves. And then I've got fresh pineapple, so I'm going to fold that in. So I'll do the pecans first. And then on the pineapple, you just want to make sure that you've gotten all the liquid out of that before it goes in. So we're just going to blend that together. And you know, the pineapple's the hardest part here, needless to say. All right, so the other thing that we had to get ready in advance for this cake is the cream cheese icing. And it's probably the most widely used icing of any of our cakes in our books. But it's cream cheese and butter that you're going to just get at room temperature and mix together very well. Then you're going to add your vanilla extract. And then just like I did the flour today, you're going to add that a little bit at a time to the mixture and just get it really nice and fluffy. If you're not going to use it right away, refrigerate it because it is cream cheese and butter, but otherwise let it come to room temperature and it just goes on the cake beautifully. If you want to know more about that, we want you to go to VeryVera YouTube channel and search Vera's 70th, and I'm going to show you how to ice a cake from start to finish. All right, so before we go to break, I'm going to give you one last tip from my mom, and it's how to cut the perfect slice of layer cake. She always scored it all the way across the front and all the way across the side. Then she took that same knife and scored 4 slices per quarter. You could probably get 5, but you've got to be really good at this technique before you try that. Then you want to make those 4 slices, and you want to go straight down with your knife, and I use a serrated knife to do this. Every time you go through the cake, you're going to wipe the cake knife off with a damp towel. And then just remember that the first slice is not going to come out perfectly. We always got that if we were the birthday child. But remember, the next slice will go perfectly, so just lift it up. If you have to hold one side of it, put it gently on the plate, and you've got the perfect layer. So I hope you've enjoyed all the traditions today. We have really had a great time talking about our cookbooks and things that my mother taught me that are still with me today, and that I'm teaching maybe some of you some of these tips that are great for hospitality and entertaining. All right, so let me start by saying how excited I am to be working with Replacements Limited. They are partnering with us. You know, my favorite part of the show ends up being the presentation. My children will tell you, as well as my grandchildren, that when we have family gatherings, I love to set the table. So Replacements Limited is just your go-to. If you've got some inherited china that you got from your grandmother and you break a plate, this is the perfect way to get that replaced. And that's the name of the company. So everything from the Spode Heath and Rose china that I use today, the Fostoria crystal, the Chantilly silver, and even the napkins that I've used today, all are things that you can find on their website. So I'm really excited to be working with them. It brings the tradition back to the table. All right, so let's talk about the recipes we did today. The chicken cordon bleu plates beautifully. It is just a gorgeous dish with the sauce that goes on top. And this is going to be in our next cookbook that comes out in May of 2026, the children's cookbook. It will complete the trilogy of the company. I'm so excited. Then roasted vegetable lasagna that's in front of me is just a delicious meal. You can do it for a side dish, you can do it for an entree depending on what the occasion is, but it is in our second cookbook, Occasions, and is absolutely one of the all-time favorites. And then finally, the Hummingbird layer cake, and as stated, it's the biggest cake we have. It's named after the smallest bird, and it actually takes up almost the entire dessert plate, and it freezes beautifully. So it's something, if you're looking for something for over the holidays, that might be something that you want to try. All right, so the sale is in place for our cookbooks. We do this every year. I never put the books on sale except once a year. And this time we're really going all out, and probably because this is the reason why we're getting ready for book 3 is to introduce all of our new markets, all of the people that are watching us for the very first time that maybe don't know about VeryVera or not familiar with our cookbooks. These cookbooks represent all the different departments of my company, from my mail order, which is book 1, to my catering business, which is cookbook 2, and then finally the children's cookbook. So what we're doing is we are doing a bundle, the cookbook bundle, which is the 2 books that we have. We're selling the bundle for $50. That is a $30 savings from what they ordinarily are. And you will need no code when you go to our website at veryvera.com to order. The sale will be in place through September 14th. So when you go to order, that sales price is going to come up immediately. So I hope you'll think about that. The holidays are coming up. It's a great way to get some of your holiday shopping when you can save a lot of money. And if you want it personalized, be sure to check that box as well. I'll be happy to do that for you. And as I always say on the VeryVera Show, no matter what you do it in good taste, and I hope you will all come back and join me next week. If you have questions or comments about today's show, or you just want to know more, please join our email list at veryvera.com.